Adrien Broner is one of the best boxers of the last decade and has made millions of dollars, yet he was in the news recently asking for $13 from his fans so that he could pay down $800,000 of debt. I felt like this was an appropriate time to explain why the athletes are going broke videos are important and why I think it's such a misunderstood series. Adrien Broner was in court dealing with a lawsuit from an incident in a nightclub where a woman claimed he sexually assaulted her. He missed the court hearing and didn't hire a lawyer, so the court ruled in favor of the woman and ordered Broner to pay her more than $800,000. Broner did not pay, and Russo granted requests from the woman's attorneys and ordered him to produce records about his finances. Social media is showing all of these people making millions of dollars, spending money on jewelry, vacations, sports cars, mansions. I'm making all this money, baby, and I want you to see how much money I spend. This is why I do what I do. Transparency in finances is great for everyone. When consumers of social media realize how in debt a lot of ballers on social media are, we can create a healthier environment on our mental health. Mental health in this country is absolutely affected by these athletes living luxurious lifestyles. You see them living a really awesome life and you sit there and wish you were in their shoes, right? Well, what if you found out that a lot of them are living paycheck to paycheck and need the next contract or fight just to pay their bills? Realize that if you have financial problems right now, then you're no different than some of these athletes, just a different car in the driveway and a few more square feet in their house. It turns out Adrien Broner doesn't have the money to settle with this lady and is asking for his fans to send him $13 on CashApp so he wouldn't have to make an OnlyFans to pay down his debt. The $13 represents how much money Adrien claimed to have in his bank account at the time of the court hearing. Here's why I make the videos. Number 1, athletes can go broke so much easier than fans realize. Most fans of these athletes are spending around $30,000 to $40,000 per year. They see the athlete making $4 million in 2020, $5 million the next year, and think there's no way to spend that much money. It's actually really easy to spend it when you're living the lifestyle that these guys do. Number 2, my videos are educational. A lot of people seem to think I'm hating or pocket watching or something nonsensical. These GQ sports videos provide great insight into how some of these athletes spend money and how quickly they spend money. The goal of these videos is to help provide insight into how easy it is to spend money at that level and educate on everything that the athlete isn't thinking about. Number 3, I think my channel is going to be big enough within the next 3 years that professional athletes and future professional athletes will be watching the videos for their own education. It's a travesty to see professional athletes going broke a couple years after their playing days and being forced to either beg for money on social media like Adrien Broner is, or they are forced to go become an employee just to pay the bills. Number 4, what fans of these athletes don't seem to understand is that nothing is guaranteed. A lot of athletes get injured, they get traded, they don't fit in within the new coach's system, or they aren't able to beat out the new first-round pick the team just drafted at their position for the starting job. Most athletes' careers end abruptly. Go back and look at NBA drafts from a couple years ago and tell me how many of those players taken in the first round are going to have long careers. A few months back, I made a video about Dwayne Haskins where I just wanted to explain how easy it is for guys to go broke. A lot of people thought I was hating on Haskins, or they wanted to tell me that he had no chance of going broke because he's a starting quarterback in the NFL and he'll certainly get a second deal. That Spencer guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Yet somehow within 6 months, he's lost his starting job on an awful team, he's got dropped to third string, and I don't think his second contract is even guaranteed at this point. He said he saved 70% of his money or something, but even if he has $2 million saved and invested, that's not going to last him and his future family and children for 70 more years. If he's spending a lot of money now, he better be able to go super frugal if he doesn't land that second contract. It's not easy to do. If he isn't careful, he will be in need of a job when his playing days are over. The NBA guys are making so much money now that it's almost hard for them to go broke, but it's generally not the amount of money they make that matters. Lifestyle inflation happens for a lot of athletes. When they make more, they spend more. They can spend the way they do when the checks are coming in, but what happens when the checks stop coming in? Athletes go broke after their playing days, not during their playing days. But there are also plenty of examples like Adrien Broner who have financial problems even when they're still earning money. What's going to happen when those $1 million paychecks stop rolling in? Athletes have the tendency to build up monthly liabilities. The numerous sports cars, the multiple houses, the lifestyle, the vacations, the jewelry. It's the aggregate of monthly liabilities that gets them in trouble. When they're playing, they can easily afford a lifestyle of spending $100,000 a month. When you're making $10 million a year, what's $100,000 a month? If you watch my previous videos, you know what the biggest expense is, right? These athletes will get married and have numerous kids when they're making their millions, and some will have 10 kids out of wedlock. Child support is based on their income, so they add a huge monthly liability to the already huge monthly personal spending number, and when the divorce happens and she asks for half, now they just split with half of their wealth. Fans will see athletes make $50 million in 5 years and go, "Wow, Spencer, you're an idiot. He's making so much money, he'll be fine. You're just a hater." Well, $50 million becomes $25 million instantly because of taxes, money to management and agents, PR reps, lawyers, etc. With $25 million, they buy a multiple million-dollar house that has property taxes and insurance, maintenance and lawn care, among other expenses. They have a couple of expensive cars, they have expensive jewelry, and they live a life full of expenses. The $25 million is down to $10 million a couple years after the playing days are over. If they get hit with a divorce and child support, that $10 million becomes $5 million, and they added an additional monthly expense. Keep in mind that athletes generally stop earning paychecks, aka they retire, by the time they're 30. Don't believe me? Go look at the average length of time athletes play. 30 is pretty generous. So an athlete retires at 30 and they live until 85. That's 55 years of living where they now don't have any money coming in. As I just explained, they're used to spending $100 grand per month. You want to know how quickly your bank account dries up when you have zero coming in and $100 grand going out? Happens really quickly. NBA athletes, NFL athletes, boxers, fighters, hockey players, they play sports that are incredibly demanding on the body. You ever see a former player walk around? These guys take a beating and don't experience the effects until they stop playing. Let's add in expensive insurance and medication so they can get out of bed in the morning. That's another monthly expense. When I worked for the Houston Rockets, Kevin McHale was the coach. Hall of Famer, amazing athlete, incredible athleticism, until you see him walk today. It hurt me to see this dude walk. I literally felt the pain all throughout my back watching Kevin McHale try to walk as he coached the Rockets. And he's not alone. Let's check in with former NFL athletes and see how easy it is for them to get out of bed in the morning. To be fair, the league may cover their medical bills when they retire, but I'm not sure about that. I would imagine they have expensive personal insurance, especially the athletes that only play for a couple of years and most likely didn't receive money from the league for insurance. Think about Adrien Broner. He could have retired and lived comfortably for the rest of his life if he invested wisely. Instead, he's now taking on more fights just to pay debt. That's just to get back to zero. This is a career that damages your brain with every additional fight, so there's more cost than just the debt he has to pay. With the NBA guys making so much money nowadays, it's going to be legitimately hard for them to go broke just because the margin of error is so large. But a couple will, and it will be surprising to fans. And that's the essence of why I do what I do. I'm not making these videos telling you they will all go broke. I'm explaining how easy it is for the guys who make 10 to 20 million to go broke and to maybe, hopefully, save a couple of guys that are heading down that path. This is a video on Adrien Broner's Instagram showing how much money he spent per month since 2017. In 2019, he was spending upwards of 500 grand in a single month. He might have made $10 million in his career, but you know how quickly money dries up when you're spending that kind of money? And the dude is 31. Where does he go from here? He can make $1 million a fight. But how is he going to earn money when the fights dry up? This is a major problem with pro athletes. Their skill set is their athletic career. They make millions playing sports, but a lot of them aren't educated enough or have any experience in any other field besides sports. So they go from earning $1.2 million fighting, but then what employer can hire them and pay them $1.2 million per year? Their expenses and lifestyle are built on a salary of $1.2 million. And if they start having financial problems, then they have to get employed by someone. Maybe they start making $80,000 per year at a job or in some sales or insurance role. Well, that's a 95% drop in salary. The last point I want to make is that a lot of athletes come from very rough backgrounds. Adrien Broner specifically came from a rough area in Cincinnati. He was facing 57 years in prison for a crime he allegedly committed, but he beat the case. Based on his stories of getting shot at when driving through that area today, and the crime he talks about, I think we can assume it's a tough neighborhood with high crime and not many opportunities to get out. I don't think it's an athlete's responsibility to help build up communities, but I really enjoy seeing athletes who do it. Work Done is a great example. I can almost guarantee he gets more joy out of providing housing to a less fortunate family than he does by more extravagant spending. LeBron helped build a school. Some athletes invest back into their home community to help revitalize broken down homes so that more people can have nicer housing. or they invest in local businesses to help bring more jobs and stability. When I see people like Adrien Broner gambling their money, getting into trouble at nightclubs, and spending excessive amounts of money on jewelry, I just feel bad because that type of behavior doesn't lead to any happiness. It leads to lawsuits, trouble, and begging for money on social media. Check out the hedonic adaptation principle if you think this type of lifestyle brings any more happiness than others. But at the end of the day, how these athletes spend their money is not any of my business. It's just tough to stomach seeing these guys come from a tough neighborhood, and after making millions of dollars, they end up in just as much financial trouble as the community they came from, just with a couple more pieces of jewelry in their dresser and a nicer car in the driveway. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully these videos help those who watch them.